Winter 1945. The hills of Garin stretch endlessly along the German-French border, buried beneath layers of unforgiving snow. The wind howls through skeletal trees, carrying with it the bitter cold that seeps into bones and souls alike. In this frozen wasteland, a column of women struggles forward, their breath forming desperate clouds in the frigid air. Lena trudges through knee-deep snow, each step a battle against exhaustion and despair. Her German auxiliary uniform, once crisp and orderly, now hangs torn and soiled from her gaunt frame. Around her, dozens of other women push forward in silence, their faces carved with the same haunting expression, the hollow stare of those who have lost everything and expect nothing but suffering ahead. The defeat came swiftly. One moment, they were serving their posts with mechanical efficiency. The next, chaos erupted as their army crumbled. Orders dissolved into panic. Officers vanished. And now these women who once believed they served a cause find themselves prisoners marching toward an unknown fate. Lena's feet are numb. She cannot remember when she last felt her toes. The inadequate boots, meant for autumn patrols rather than winter marches, have long since failed their purpose. Blood stains the snow behind her with each step, but she dares not stop. To stop is to die. To fall behind is to be left for the wolves and the cold. Fear courses through her veins more powerfully than any warmth. The propaganda echoes in her mind. The Americans are savages, beasts who show no mercy to captured enemies. Stories of violence and humiliation have been drilled into her consciousness for years. She has heard what happens to women prisoners. Death might be a mercy compared to what awaits. Martha, walking beside her, whispers through cracked lips. Martha is older, harder, someone who survived the Eastern Front before being reassigned. Her voice carries the weight of experience and terror. "They will not spare us," Martha says, her eyes fixed on the endless white horizon. "We are worse than soldiers to them. We are traitors to our own sex, serving the enemy. They will make examples of us." Lena wants to respond, to offer some word of hope or defiance, but her throat is too dry, her spirit too broken. Instead, she focuses on the rhythmic crunch of snow beneath her feet. One step, another step, survival measured in inches. The column moves like a funeral procession through the desolate landscape. No guards shout orders anymore. No one needs to. Where would they run? Into the forest to freeze alone, back toward the shattered remnants of their army. Forward is the only direction that offers even the illusion of choice. As darkness begins to descend, the cold intensifies. Lena can see her companions beginning to falter. Some stumble, others weep silently. The youngest among them, barely 18, mutters prayers to a god who seems to have abandoned these frozen hills entirely. Lena feels her own resolve cracking. The certainty of capture looms ahead like an executioner's blade. Everything she believed, everything she was taught about duty and sacrifice, has led her to this frozen path toward an enemy she has been conditioned to fear more than death itself. The irony burns colder than the wind. They are marching willingly toward their captors, driven by the simple, desperate hope that captivity might offer shelter from the storm that will surely kill them if they remain exposed. But hope, Lena is learning, can be the cruelest enemy of all. The barn appears through the swirling snow like a ghost from another time. Its wooden walls sag under the weight of accumulated ice, and half the roof has collapsed inward. But to Lena and the other women, it represents salvation. They pour inside, desperate for any respite from the merciless wind that has flayed their exposed skin raw. Inside, the darkness swallows them. The temperature is barely warmer than outside, but at least the wind cannot reach them here. The women collapse against the walls, huddle together in clusters, sharing what little body heat remains in their depleted frames. The smell of hay mingles with sweat, fear, and the metallic tang of frostbite. Lena finds a corner and slides down, her legs finally giving out. She tries to flex her fingers but cannot feel them moving. Around her, whispered conversations flutter like dying moths. "How long until they find us?" someone asks. "Maybe they will not come," another voice responds, though no one believes it. Martha settles beside Lena, her weathered face barely visible in the dim light, filtering through gaps in the barn walls. Her hands tremble as she pulls her thin coat tighter, a futile gesture against the pervading cold. "I saw what happened in the east," Martha begins, her voice low and haunted. "When our positions were overrun, the enemy soldiers, they showed no mercy. Women were sport to them, objects to be used and discarded." Lena closes her eyes, not wanting to hear but unable to stop listening. "The war taught us that the enemy is a monster," Martha continues, each word deliberate and heavy. "Not human, not capable of compassion or restraint, only violence and degradation. That is what we face now." Other women nod in the shadows. They have all heard the stories, the propaganda films, the whispered accounts from soldiers returning from captured territories. The Americans, they were told, are worse than the Russians. They hide their brutality behind smiles and chocolate bars, but underneath, they are savages wrapped in civilized uniforms. "They will separate us," another woman adds from across the barn. "Interrogate us one by one. They will want information, and when we have nothing to give, they will punish us for our silence." Lena feels her stomach tighten. Information. What information could auxiliary soldiers possibly possess? They were clerks, radio operators, support staff. They knew nothing of strategic value. Would the Americans believe that? Or would they assume deception and respond with violence? The hours crawl past. Some women sleep fitfully. Others remain awake, staring into darkness, confronting their fears in silence. Lena drifts between consciousness and exhaustion, her mind conjuring images of what awaits them. Then, as pale light begins to filter through the morning clouds, they hear it. The unmistakable sound of engines approaching. American engines, the distinctive rumble of their vehicles cutting through the snow. Martha grabs Lena's arm, her grip surprisingly strong. "Thais, they are here," she whispers, and in those 3 words lives every nightmare they have been taught to expect. The women press themselves against the far wall of the barn, as if a few extra feet might somehow delay the inevitable. Footsteps crunch through snow outside. Voices call out in English, sharp and commanding. The barn door creaks open slowly. Lena holds her breath and waits for the monster to reveal its face. Everything she has been conditioned to believe tells her that mercy died the moment this war began. But doubt, small and persistent, begins to whisper a dangerous question. What if everything they taught us was wrong? The door swings open, and silhouettes fill the entrance. American soldiers, their rifles raised, their faces obscured by the blinding daylight behind them. For a moment, no one moves. The frozen tableau holds predators and prey, conquerors and defeated, enemy and enemy. Lieutenant John Carter steps forward first, his boots crunching on the frozen hay scattered across the barn floor. He is younger than Lena expected, perhaps 30, with sharp features worn by months of combat. His eyes scan the huddled mass of women, and something flickers across his face. Not hatred, not lust, something closer to surprise, perhaps even dismay. Behind him, Sergeant Henry Davis enters, older and harder, his rifle still pointed toward the women. Other soldiers follow, spreading out along the barn's perimeter, securing the space with practiced efficiency. Their movements are mechanical, professional, revealing nothing of their intentions. Carter lowers his weapon slowly. He speaks in German, his accent thick but comprehensible. "You are prisoners of the United States Army. You will not be harmed if you cooperate." The words hang in the cold air. Lena searches his face for deceit, for the cruelty she has been promised exists beneath every American uniform. But his expression remains neutral, almost careful. Davis steps beside his lieutenant, speaking in rapid English. Lena catches fragments. Orders to retreat, weather deteriorating. Command wants them back before the storm hits. Carter responds quietly, but his eyes never leave the women. "Sir Jesus Christ," one American soldier mutters from near the door. "They're frozen half to death." It is true. In the daylight streaming through the open door, the condition of the prisoners becomes starkly visible. Blue-tinged skin, fingers blackened by frostbite, faces gaunt from hunger and exposure. Several women can barely sit upright. One lies completely still in the corner, and Lena realizes with horror that she might already be dead. Carter moves deeper into the barn, his weapon now hanging at his side. He kneels before one of the women, examining her hands. She flinches violently, pulling away with a whimper of terror. He withdraws immediately, raising his palms in a gesture of peace. "Davis," Carter calls over his shoulder, "get the medic, now." The sergeant hesitates, conflict visible in his weathered features. "Sir, our orders are to pull back immediately. Command was explicit. The storm front is moving faster than predicted. If we delay, we risk getting caught in the open." "I heard the orders, Sergeant. These are enemy combatants, sir. Support personnel. Our responsibility is to our own men, not to prisoners we can barely transport in ideal conditions, let alone with a blizzard bearing down." Carter stands, turning to face Davis fully. Outside, the wind has begun to pick up, howling through the ruined roof with renewed intensity. Snowflakes swirl through the barn, settling on frozen ground and frozen women alike. "Look at them, Henry," Carter says quietly. "Really look." Davis does. His jaw tightens. Professional discipline wars with something deeper, something human that military training tried to suppress but never quite eliminated. "If we leave them here," Carter continues, "they will die. Maybe not all of them. Maybe not today. But most of them. You know it." "I know it. That is not our problem, Lieutenant." "Then whose problem is it?" The question hangs unanswered as the storm begins to announce its arrival with thunder in the distance. The wind screams through the broken roof, carrying with it the promise of violence. Carter stands motionless, his gaze moving from Davis to the huddled women, then to his own men positioned around the barn. Each soldier watches their lieutenant, waiting for the order that will determine not just the fate of these prisoners, but perhaps the measure of their own humanity. Davis steps closer, lowering his voice so only Carter can hear. "Sir, with respect, we have 12 men. They have 30, maybe 40 women, half of them unable to walk. The trucks can barely handle our equipment in these conditions. The radio report said whiteout conditions within 2 hours. If we attempt to transport them, we risk everyone." Carter removes his helmet, running a hand through sweat-dampened hair despite the cold. He knows Davis is right. Tactically, strategically, by every measure of military logic, the decision is clear. Secure the position, report the prisoners' location, move out before the storm traps them. Let headquarters decide what to do with enemy personnel when conditions improve. But logic feels hollow when confronted with the reality before him. These are not the fanatical warriors propaganda portrayed. They are clerks and radio operators, barely trained auxiliaries who look more like refugees than soldiers. Some appear younger than his sister back in Pennsylvania. "What would you do, Henry?" Carter asks suddenly. "If these were American women, if they were ours?" Davis's face hardens. "They are not ours, sir." "That is precisely the point." "Is it? Is that really the point?" A young private named Collins approaches, his medical kit already open. He kneels beside one of the women, gently examining her blackened fingers. She does not resist, too weak or too shocked to care anymore. Collins looks up at Carter, his young face troubled. "Lieutenant, several of them have advanced frostbite. This one here, she cannot feel her feet at all. Without treatment soon, she will lose them, maybe more." Lena watches this exchange from her corner, struggling to understand the English words but reading the body language clearly. There is disagreement among the Americans. The older one wants to leave. The younger one, the officer, seems uncertain. This uncertainty frightens her more than certainty would have. It means their fate hangs in genuine balance. Martha whispers beside her. "Say, what are they saying?" "I do not know, but they are arguing about us." "Let them argue. Let them leave us here. Better to freeze than face what comes after." But Lena is not certain anymore. Something about the way the young officer looks at them troubles the certainty she carried into this barn. There is no hatred in his eyes, no predatory hunger, only conflict. The kind that suggests he sees them as something other than objects. Carter makes his decision. He turns to face his men, his voice carrying authority that brooks no argument. "We take them with us. Everyone. We move in formation, roped together if necessary. The trucks will carry those who cannot walk. We will maintain combat readiness, but these prisoners are now under our protection. Davis closes his eyes briefly, then nods. Yes, sir. You understand this may cost us? I understand, Sergeant. Give the orders. The preparation begins with brutal efficiency. American soldiers move through the barn, assessing who can walk and who cannot. They speak in calm tones, trying to communicate through gestures when German fails them. Most of the women remain frozen in fear, unable to comprehend that their captors are organizing rescue rather than execution. Collins, the medic, works quickly, wrapping the worst cases of frostbite in whatever clean cloth he can find. His supplies are limited, meant for a squad of 12 and not 40 prisoners. He improvises, tearing his own spare shirt into strips for bandages. Outside, the storm gathers strength. The sky has darkened to an ominous grey, and snow falls in thick, chaotic curtains. Visibility drops by the minute. Davis coordinates the men, his movements sharp with controlled urgency. Whatever his personal reservations, once the order is given, he executes it perfectly. A rope line, Davis barks. Every prisoner attached. Soldiers at intervals. No one breaks formation for any reason. If someone falls, the whole line stops. We move together or not at all. Tom Jensen, a lanky soldier from Iowa, barely 20 years old, helps secure the rope around Lena's waist. His hands are gentle, apologetic almost. He meets her eyes briefly and offers something that might be a reassuring smile, though it trembles at the edges. "See, it will be okay," he says in broken German. "We help you." Lena wants to respond but cannot find words. The cognitive dissonance is overwhelming. Everything she was taught, everything she believed about the enemy, collides with the reality of this young man, carefully checking that the rope is secure but not too tight. Martha is tied behind her, still muttering darkly. "This is a trick. They will march us into the forest and shoot us where no one can see. Why else would they pretend kindness?" But the Americans' actions contradict Martha's certainty. 3 women too weak to walk are lifted carefully onto the trucks. Blankets appear from supply packs, distributed among the prisoners. Not enough for everyone, but more than nothing. Soldiers give up their own coats to the worst cases, standing in the bitter cold with only their uniform jackets. Carter moves along the line, inspecting the formation. When he reaches a woman collapsed against the barn wall, unable even to stand, he does not hesitate. He hands his rifle to Davis and lifts her himself, draping her across his shoulders in a fireman's carry. "Sir, you cannot—" Davis begins. "Then who will, Sergeant? We are already past the point of reasonable decisions. We might as well commit fully to this insanity." Tom Jensen ends up with a prisoner on his back as well, an older woman who weeps silently as he adjusts her weight. He thinks of his sister, Margaret, back home in Des Moines. She is only a year younger than this woman. He wonders if someone would show Margaret mercy if their positions were reversed, if she were the one frozen and terrified in a foreign land. The line forms. 40 women tied together, interspersed with 12 American soldiers, a human chain stretching 60 yards, about to march into a blizzard that meteorology reports predict will be the worst of the winter. Davis gives the signal. The formation begins to move, stepping from the relative shelter of the barn into the screaming wind. Within minutes, the world becomes white. Only the rope connecting them confirms that others still exist in this frozen void. The world dissolves into white chaos. Snow drives horizontally, stinging exposed skin like thousands of tiny needles. Lena can barely see Martha tied ahead of her, just a dark shape flickering in and out of visibility. The rope around her waist is the only certainty, the only proof that she remains connected to something beyond this frozen hell. Each step requires conscious effort. Her legs move mechanically, numb and distant, as if they belong to someone else. The wind shrieks so loudly that thought itself becomes difficult. There is only the rope, the snow, and the overwhelming urge to simply stop, to lie down and let the cold take her. Behind her, someone falls. The rope jerks violently, and the entire line grinds to a halt. American voices shout commands lost in the storm. Tom Jensen struggles back along the line, his face already crusted with ice. He reaches the fallen woman, tries to lift her. She cannot stand. Her legs have given out completely. Without hesitation, Tom hoists her onto his back. Now he carries two weights, the woman already there and this new burden of responsibility. His legs tremble violently, but he pushes forward. The line resumes its agonizing crawl. Minutes stretch into hours. Though time loses meaning in the whiteout, Lena's consciousness begins to fragment. She finds herself thinking of her childhood, of summer days that seem impossible now, as if warmth itself was only ever a dream. Her mother's face appears in the swirling snow, smiling, calling her home. She stumbles. The rope catches her. Someone ahead, Martha perhaps, or an American soldier, pulls her forward, refusing to let her fall. Davis moves along the line constantly, checking each person, ensuring no one has frozen in place. His face is a mask of ice, his eyebrows and beard white with accumulated frost. When he reaches the middle of the formation, he finds one of the prisoners completely unresponsive, her eyes open but unseeing. "Lieutenant!" he shouts, his voice barely carrying through the storm. "We are losing them." Carter, still carrying his burden, turns his head. The woman on his shoulders has stopped shivering, which he knows is a terrible sign. Shivering means the body still fights. Stillness means surrender. "How far?" Carter yells back. "Half a mile, maybe less. But visibility is zero. We could miss the shelter entirely. Then we navigate by compass. We do not stop." "Sir, some of them will not make half a mile. Look at them." Carter does look. The line has become a procession of the dying. Women shuffle forward like automatons, their movements increasingly mechanical as consciousness fades. Several soldiers now carry double loads, their own strength failing under the combined weight of exhaustion and human cargo. The terrible mathematics of survival calculates itself in Carter's mind. If they stop, everyone dies. If they continue, some might die, but others might live. The choice is no choice at all. "We push forward," he orders. "Every person we save justifies every risk we take." Davis nods grimly. He knows this decision may kill them all. He also knows it is the only decision his lieutenant could make, and still remain the man Davis has followed for 2 years of war. The line moves forward into oblivion, a fragile thread of humanity stretched against the storm's desire to erase them completely. Through the white madness, a shape emerges. At first, Lena thinks it is another hallucination, another trick of her failing mind, but the shape solidifies, grows more distinct. Wooden walls, a roof intact. Windows glowing with impossible light. "There!" someone shouts, the word torn away by wind but unmistakable in its desperate joy. The shelter stands like a miracle against the storm. It is a logistics station, abandoned weeks ago but still structurally sound. Carter pushes forward with renewed strength, his burden suddenly lighter, knowing rescue is steps away rather than miles. The line collapses through the door, in a chaotic mass of frozen bodies and desperate relief. Inside, blessed stillness. The wind scream becomes muted, distant. Soldiers immediately begin lighting fires in the old stoves, breaking furniture for fuel without hesitation. Lena falls to the floor, unable to stand another moment. Around her, women collapse in heaps, some crying, others silent in shock. The warmth beginning to fill the room feels alien, painful almost, as frozen flesh reluctantly remembers sensation. American medics work frantically. Collins moves from person to person, his young face etched with concentration. He cuts away frozen boots, revealing feet blackened and swollen. He administers morphine to those screaming as feeling returns to damaged limbs. His supplies vanish within minutes, spread across too many patients with too many needs. Carter finally lowers the woman from his shoulders, laying her gently near one of the fires. She opens her eyes for the first time in an hour, confused but alive. He staggers away, his own legs nearly giving out, and slumps against a wall. Davis appears beside him, offering a canteen. Carter drinks deeply, his hands shaking with exhaustion. "Final count," Carter asks. "All 42 prisoners accounted for. All 12 of our men alive. Jensen might lose a couple toes to frostbite, but he will walk again. 3 of the women are critical, might not make it through the night. The rest will survive." Carter closes his eyes. 3 might die, but 39 will live. Without intervention, all 42 would have perished in that barn, or frozen on the march to wherever they imagined they were going. Across the room, Lena watches this exchange. She sees the exhaustion in these American faces, the toll this rescue has taken. Tom Jensen sits nearby, his feet being bandaged by another soldier. He gave his extremities to save hers. The realization hits her with unexpected force. These men, these supposed monsters, sacrificed their own safety for women. They had every military and political reason to abandon. The propaganda in her mind crumbles, revealing how hollow it always was. Martha sits beside her, silent for once. Her certainty has also cracked. When an American medic approaches to examine her hands, she does not pull away. She allows the treatment, tears streaming down her weathered face. "They carried us," Martha whispers, her voice breaking. "The enemy carried us through hell itself." Lena nods, unable to speak. Through the window, the storm continues its rage. But inside this shelter, something more powerful than weather has occurred. Humanity has asserted itself against the machinery of war.